What's the craziest thing you did in high school to feel alive? I was 17 when I made the dumbest decision of my life. At least that's what everyone called it afterward. Looking back, they were probably right. It happened during my senior year. My grades were falling, my parents were constantly fighting, and every day felt exactly the same. Wake up, go to school, pretend everything was fine, go home, repeat. I felt like I was watching my own life instead of living it. One night after football practice, I sat alone in my truck scrolling through my phone when I got a message from a friend. You still want to see the old fire tower? The tower sat on top of a hill outside town. It had been abandoned for years. The stairs were rusted, parts of the floor were missing, and people constantly made up stories about accidents that supposedly happened there. Nobody went near it after dark. Naturally, that's exactly when we decided to go. Around midnight, 3 of us met at a gas station and started driving. The farther we got from town, the darker everything became. Soon, there were no streetlights, no houses, and no other cars. Just endless darkness. By the time we reached the hill, I was already questioning the entire idea. The tower looked terrifying. The moonlight reflected off the rusted metal frame, making it look like some giant skeleton standing in the middle of nowhere. My friends immediately started arguing about whether we should leave. I wish we had. Instead, I grabbed a flashlight and started climbing. The first few steps weren't bad. Then the metal began creaking. Every step sounded like it might be the last one. The higher we climbed, the stronger the wind became. The entire structure swayed slightly, just enough to make you notice. Halfway up, I looked down. Big mistake. The ground seemed impossibly far away. My stomach dropped. For a second, I froze. I seriously considered turning around, but something inside me refused. I wasn't climbing that tower because I wanted a good view. I was climbing because I was tired of being afraid of everything. Afraid of failing. Afraid of disappointing people. Afraid of making mistakes. Afraid of living the same day over and over again. So I kept climbing. One step, then another, then another. When I finally reached the top platform, I pushed open the old metal door and stepped outside. And suddenly, everything changed. The entire town stretched out beneath me. Thousands of tiny lights glowing in the darkness. The football field where I spent every Friday night. The school where I thought every embarrassing moment would follow me forever. The streets where I grew up. The houses, the stores, the places that felt so huge every day. From up there, they looked tiny. For the first time in months, my mind became completely quiet. No stress, no anxiety, no pressure, just silence. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at the horizon. Then I saw flashing lights. At first, I thought I was imagining things. Then one of my friends yelled, "Dude, that's a cop!" Sure enough, police lights were winding up the road toward the tower. Apparently, someone had seen our vehicles and reported suspicious activity. Panic immediately took over. My friend nearly slipped running back toward the stairs. Another dropped his flashlight completely. The climb down was 10 times worse than the climb up. Every noise sounded louder. Every step felt more dangerous. When we finally reached the bottom, a police officer was waiting beside our trucks. He looked tired, not angry, just tired. He stared at us for a few seconds before shaking his head. "Let me guess," he said. Nobody answered. "You 3 thought this was a good idea?" Still, nobody answered. The officer looked up at the tower and laughed, not because it was funny, because he couldn't believe how stupid we were. After checking our IDs and giving us the longest lecture of our lives, he finally let us go. The entire drive home, nobody said much. We were exhausted, cold, embarrassed. But as the sun slowly started rising over the horizon, something weird happened. I felt better than I had in months, not because we broke rules, not because we got away with something, but because for one night, I stopped worrying about everything. Years have passed since then. I've forgotten most of my teachers. I've forgotten most of my assignments. I couldn't tell you what grades I got on half my exams, but I still remember standing on top of that tower. I still remember the wind, the silence, the view, and the feeling that life was much bigger than the problems I carried every day. It was reckless. It was stupid, and I'd never recommend anyone do it. But if you're asking for the craziest thing I ever did in high school to feel alive, that's the night I'll never forget.